Welcome to the Japanese word of the week. This week's word is sugoi. Sugoi means cool, awesome, or amazing in English and is a great word for your Japanese vocabulary once you make your trip to Japan. Some uses for sugoi are: that anime was really sugoi. Wow, that was a sugoi throw from that judoka. Japan and its people are super sugoi. Sugoi is also a great word to express amazement. Oh, sugoi! In that instance, you can also use the slang version, sugoi. But that is mainly a manly expression, and you females watching should use something more delicate. That is it for this episode of Japanese Word of the Week. And I hope you have a sugoi day. Mata ne! This is the Japanese word of the week. This week's word is konnichiwa. Konnichiwa means hello or good day. It can be used in any scenario, from meeting someone you know to someone you just met. But remember, you should never use konnichiwa in the morning or the evening. If you're greeting someone in the morning, you would say ohayou gozaimasu, which means good morning. You can also just say ohayo if it is a family member or a close friend. But never use ohayo to a stranger you never met. You should say ohayou gozaimasu. Otherwise, you will come off as a rude gaijin. And you do not want to be some rude gaijin, do you? In the evening, you say konbanwa, which means good evening. And that is it for this Japanese word of the week. Arigatou for watching, and have a good night, evening, morning, or day. Mata ne! This is the Japanese word of the week. And I would like to say, Akimashite omedetou gozaimasu. That means Happy New Year in Japanese. There's also the casual Akimashite omedetou, but you should never use that one. You can also only say Akimashite omedetou gozaimasu on January 1st and a couple of days later. Never walk up to your boss or superiors on January 25th and say it. You will be fired on the spot for being an inconsiderate, rude Westerner. In Japan, you follow the rules and know your place. And also never use it before January 1st. If you want to wish someone a Happy New Year in Japan before January 1st, you say Yoi o toshi o omukai kudasai. If you follow these rules well, then the people of Japan will consider you Japanese as well. And that is it for this week's Japanese word of the week. Have a good night, evening, morning, or day. Mata ne! This is the Japanese word of the week. This week's word is manji. Now this one might be a little bit harder to understand. Japanese is a very complex language. Manji was used as mon, commonly known in English as emblems, for various old Japanese clans. So it has a deep connection to Japanese history. Today it is commonly associated with temples and has a deep connection to Japanese religion. On Japanese maps, you will also see that manji is used to refer to temples, with this deep connection to spirituality and religion. Manji can be translated to spiritual and or religious place or person. So I would recommend putting manji somewhere in your online username to express your spirituality. And that is it for this Japanese word of the week. Have a good night, evening, morning, or day. Mata ne! Welcome to the Japanese word of the week. This week's word is budo. Budo translates into martial way and is the Japanese word for martial arts. As an active martial artist myself who practices multiple different techniques, also known as jutsu, from over 10 different Japanese martial arts multiple times a week to keep myself in peak condition, budo is something that should be part of everyone's lives. I have had the pleasure to be spiritually trained by senseis like Hatsumi Masaki sensei, the Grandmaster of Ninjutsu, former Togakure Ryosoke, and founder of the Budokan organization. I use all of his techniques all the time in my everyday life. I am also currently developing my very own Japanese martial arts style that combines the best moves from Japanese martial arts into one. I call it Dimension Cross Ryubudo Taijutsu. Once it is finished, it will be the strongest style in the world. I'll let you know when it's done, so you can all start practicing Dimension Cross Ryubudo Taijutsu, and I can become your sensei. But that is it for this Japanese word of the week. Have a good night, evening, morning, or day. Mata ne! This is the Japanese word of the week. This week's word is kawaii. Kawaii means cute, which I'm sure you fellow anime fans out there use quite frequently. I personally use it all the time. It can be used to express yourself when encountering something cute in Japan. When you see a very cute Japanese female in the streets of Tokyo, you would say, "Oh, kawaii!" It is a very useful word to use when you go to Japan because everything in Japan is kawaii. But I see a lot of baka gaijins saying this word wrong. It is not pronounced kawaii. It is pronounced ka-wa-ii. Make sure you get this one right, otherwise you will look like a fool and you will be very disrespectful to the superior Japanese language. So keep that in mind. But that is it for this Japanese word of the week. Have a good night, evening, morning, or day. Mata ne! This is the Japanese word of the week. This week's word is gaijin. Gaijins are rude and uneducated foreigners who make their way into Japan and its culture. They don't care about Japanese culture and are only there to disturb the locals. People like Johnny Somali, Phidias, and Logan Paul fit this category perfectly. There are certain foreigners who come from countries where it's okay to be rude and disgusting in public, and they try to do the same thing in Japan, with zero success. I personally had to intervene when our Japanese female was being harassed by a gaijin when I was in Japan. And I told him, "Keep your hands off her, you filthy gaijin. If you can't respect this country's rules and culture, then you can go back to your country." But that is it for this Japanese word of the week. Have a good night, evening, morning, or day. Mata ne! This is the Japanese word of the week. This week's word is hentai. Hentai means metamorphosis, the process of a living creature transforming its appearance, like a larva turning into a butterfly. Hentai has a deep connection with Japanese culture. Long-running popular shows such as Kamen Rider or Super Sentai uses the concept of hentai a lot, where the main heroes transform into a new powerful form. Hentai is also very common in anime. Animes such as Dragon Ball by Akira Toriyama has a lot of hentai, like when Son Goku hentais into the powerful Super Saiyajin form, or animes such as Sailor Moon, which is famous for its hentai scenes. So yes, hentai is very important. But that is it for this Japanese word of the week. Arigato for watching, and have a good night, evening, morning, or day. Mata ne! This is the Japanese word of the week. This week's word is dattebayo. Dattebayo is the catchphrase of the main character of the Naruto series, Uzumaki Naruto, and means... That's right, dattebayo can't be translated into English. Japanese is a very complex, deep, and sophisticated language compared to English, which is why you have concepts like dattebayo, which can't be understood by Westerners. This is just something that most Westerners won't be able to understand. Japanese is just too deep for a lot of Americans and Europeans. I suggest you study the language so you can learn its true meaning. Only then will you be able to truly know what it means. Also make sure to read or watch Naruto, as it is the best shonen manga and anime ever made, and my personal favorite. But that is it for this Japanese word of the week. Have a good night, evening, morning, or day. Mata ne! This is the Japanese word of the week. This week's word is senpai. Senpai is a word describing someone who is superior to you and is a respectful way of addressing them. It can refer to someone who is in a higher grade than you in school, someone who has been practicing martial arts longer than you, or someone who is just better than you, just for example. Now it might be tempting for you to call me senpai, but that would be wrong. You should be referring to me as sensei instead, as I am your teacher in Japanese culture. But anyway, senpai is a very useful word, especially if you're a Westerner, since you will be using the word senpai to refer to all Japanese people. Remember, It's always important to respect your superiors. But that is it for this Japanese word of the week. Have a good night, evening, morning, or day. Mata ne!